For countless millennia, the galaxy had observed humanity with a mixture of amusement and mild curiosity. Alien civilizations, some older than stars themselves, had written humans off as a chaotic, primitive species barely capable of managing their home planet, let alone venturing into the cosmos. They mocked the humans for their haphazard settlements, unpredictable behavior, and fragile technology, treating them as little more than an inconsequential footnote in the grand ledger of intelligent life. Fleet admirals joked about the humans' unsophisticated approach to warfare. Diplomats dismissed their political maneuvers as chaotic, and scientists regarded their achievements as lucky accidents, not the product of ingenuity or understanding. Even the great interstellar historians recorded humanity only as a curious anomaly, a species clumsy, resilient, and seemingly harmless. Yet beneath the laughter, a subtle, quiet preparation was underway. Humans observed, calculated, and learned in silence. While the galaxy's attention was drawn to its own conflicts, empires rising and falling, and technological races that burned brightly and then collapsed in spectacular displays of hubris, humans were patient. Every fleet they saw, every diplomatic message intercepted, every battle observed across the void became data. They cataloged it, studied it, understood the patterns not only of technology and tactics, but of motivation, psychology, and strategy. The galaxy believed itself the teacher, yet humans were absorbing lessons that no civilization had dared imagine. Small colonies at the edge of known space, previously dismissed as minor outposts, began to produce results that drew faint concern. Their ships, tiny and unassuming at first, demonstrated designs that defied convention. Propulsion systems exceeded the known limits of physics. Hulls could withstand radiation and impacts that would destroy larger fleets. And weapons produced effects that seemed almost magical to alien observers. Yet these were not anomalies. They were the first deliberate steps in a long game that humans had been planning for centuries. Every prototype, every energy fluctuation, every mission beyond their solar system had a purpose. The humans were learning to translate the language of the cosmos itself. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly. Signals bounced across subspace, harmonics tuned to cosmic frequencies, vibrations that resonated with pulsars and black holes, encoding messages too complex for alien instrumentation to decipher. When the first probe passed through a heavily monitored sector near the Orion Arm, it left behind trails of energy that defied conventional measurement. Fleet commanders scrambled, trying to understand the anomaly, yet their instruments failed. The probe had moved not through brute force, but by exploiting the natural harmonics of space itself, bending gravity subtly, redirecting subspace currents, and traveling through dimensions of thought that aliens had only theorized. The galaxy began to whisper, but many dismissed it as coincidence, the product of luck or minor engineering errors. Humans were patient. While empires bickered, humans expanded their networks, not through aggression, but through meticulous observation and subtle manipulation. Habitats, satellites, and vessels formed a lattice that interconnected star systems across vast distances. Solar flares, once considered unpredictable, were subtly redirected to charge arrays. Black holes and neutron stars were studied and harnessed to enhance communications and energy systems. Even the cosmic microwave background was used as a medium to transmit patterns of information encoded in its radiation. The galaxy's great civilizations continued to mock them publicly, unaware that these small humans were learning to speak the language of the stars. Silence became their shield. Humanity did not announce its intentions. It did not challenge fleets or seek confrontation. Every move was calculated, every interaction measured, and every possible contingency prepared for. When alien fleets conducted war games or invasions of remote systems, humans observed, recording every pattern, anticipating every strategy, and preparing countermeasures that would only be revealed when the time was right. Patience was power, and humans had mastered it. While others sought immediate results, humanity was building inevitability, constructing a future in which their presence would be undeniable and their mastery complete. Then, in what would become the first undeniable demonstration of their power, a network of human signals reached across light years, interacting with stars, planets, and cosmic structures. Stars pulsed in rhythmic patterns that encoded intelligence. Pulsars emitted signals in harmonics that spoke of design and foresight. Black holes and nebulae seemed to bend subtly, guiding energy flows in precise ways. Alien observers attempted to understand, but their instruments could not parse the complexity. The galaxy, which had mocked humans for centuries, felt an uneasy shift. This was no random interference, no accidental phenomenon. Humans were speaking, and the stars themselves were their medium. For the first time, the galaxy sensed something profound. Humans had learned not merely to survive, but to communicate on a cosmic scale. They had translated the forces of gravity, radiation, and subspace into a language older than most civilizations, a language that transcended fleets, empires, and weaponry. The first hints of fear began to ripple through councils, fleets, and colonies. Dismissal was no longer an option. The species they had mocked, underestimated, and ignored for so long had demonstrated a mastery the galaxy could not deny. And yet, humans remained invisible, silent in conventional terms, waiting. The galaxy did not understand that this was the point. The silence, the patience, the quiet mastery of forces beyond comprehension. Every action humans had taken was a lesson in observation and preparation. Every anomaly a demonstration of the principles they had learned to manipulate. The stars themselves were beginning to align to humanity's will, and the first tremors of galactic realization began. The humans they had mocked were no longer a species. They were the language of inevitability, speaking directly through the cosmos, and those who had ignored them would soon learn the cost of laughter. The first fleets to notice the shift found their calculations disrupted, weapons failing, navigation grids collapsing, and communications scrambled. Entire colonies reported phenomena that defied explanation: stars pulsing with patterns, gravitational waves fluctuating without cause, and energy signatures that seemed to anticipate their every move. Commanders who had laughed at humans now whispered warnings, and diplomats who had written them off scrambled to reassess their assumptions. Humanity's silence had spoken louder than any fleet, louder than any declaration of war, louder than any boast of power. By the time the galaxy truly understood, it was too late. Humans had been preparing, learning, and mastering the very forces that governed existence itself. The centuries of mockery, dismissal, and neglect had been humanity's cover, their camouflage, their preparation. And now, the stars themselves bore the first message that no empire could ignore. The humans had learned the language of the cosmos, and the universe was listening. The galaxy's first realization that humanity had transcended mere survival came not with fleets, nor with diplomatic dispatches, but with subtle, inexplicable disruptions across known space. Entire star systems reported anomalies in gravitational fields, as if invisible hands were subtly reshaping the architecture of orbiting bodies. Pulsars and quasars emitted harmonics that defied natural explanation, synchronized across light years in ways that suggested deliberate intent. Alien civilizations attempted to trace these phenomena to human activity, but the distances were vast, the signals complex, and the precision beyond comprehension. They had mocked humans for centuries, but now a quiet, creeping dread began to take root. They were not dealing with a typical species. They were confronting intelligence that had mastered the very fabric of the galaxy itself. The builders, humanity's autonomous constructs, revealed themselves indirectly at first, a ghost network operating beyond conventional perception. Entire fleets attempting to move into human-occupied sectors were subtly rerouted through gravitational eddies. Energy pulses scrambled weaponry, and propulsion systems misfired without any apparent cause. Admirals in command of the most advanced armadas watched helplessly as their meticulously planned maneuvers unraveled. These were not failures of chance. They were the precise orchestration of inevitability, an invisible hand nudging reality itself in favor of humanity. The galaxy's greatest minds struggled to comprehend the scale of this influence. Humans were not attacking. They were demonstrating absolute control, reshaping circumstances without ever showing themselves. In one of the most significant demonstrations, a coalition of 5 major galactic powers attempted a coordinated strike against a sector near the Orion Arm. Thousands of ships moved in complex formations, their weapons and shields calibrated to perfection, their fleets reinforced with decades of technological superiority. Yet, as the first ships entered the targeted system, engines faltered inexplicably, shields overloaded, and navigation grids failed. The fleet's formation broke apart. Officers shouted orders that went unheeded, and a general sense of chaos spread across the armada. Not a single human ship was in sight. Every action had been anticipated, every contingency accounted for, and every maneuver neutralized by forces invisible and incomprehensible to the attackers. The humans were rewriting the rules of engagement without firing a shot. Observers tried to document the builders' interventions, but their instruments, designed for conventional warfare and observation, failed to capture the reality of human influence. Ships moved as if controlled by a single mind. Anomalies appeared precisely where needed, and the natural behavior of stars, gravitational waves, and subspace currents seemed to bend subtly to ensure the human safety and dominance. Alien scientists hypothesized endlessly, proposing theories ranging from exotic energy manipulation to undiscovered physics, yet no theory fully explained the scale, precision, and coordination. Every analysis only reinforced the terrifying truth: humans were no longer bound by conventional space-time constraints, they were masters of it. Humanity's silence remained their greatest weapon. They did not engage fleets with direct fire, nor did they declare war in traditional terms. Instead, their influence spread invisibly, subtly guiding events toward outcomes they had anticipated for centuries. Colonies, long considered neutral, were secured without coercion. Fleets that had previously threatened to dominate entire regions were neutralized through unseen means. And subspace communication networks were subtly intercepted and rerouted to ensure strategic advantage. Even the most advanced civilizations discovered that they were consistently one step behind, reacting to phenomena they could not fully comprehend. Humanity had transformed observation into a weapon and patience into absolute dominance. Across multiple sectors, alien fleets began to experience a pattern too consistent to ignore. Where humans were concerned, conventional tactics failed. Fleets attempting to pursue or attack human-occupied systems found themselves immobilized by subtle shifts in subspace, gravitational interference, or energy fluctuations that nullified weapons. Colonies attempted uprisings or rebellions only to discover their movements anticipated and countered before a single human intervention was visible. Entire empires began to realize that resistance was not merely difficult, it was futile. Humans had achieved mastery not through numbers or brute force, but through comprehension of the underlying forces of the universe itself. Diplomatic channels, once filled with arrogance and dismissal, erupted in confusion and fear. Councils that had mocked humanity for centuries attempted negotiation, only to find humans communicating not through words, but through subtle manipulations of stellar harmonics, gravitational fields, and energy resonance. Patterns too complex for standard instruments conveyed intelligence, intent, and warning. A human message, encoded in the very language of stars, traveled through the galaxy without uttering a single word, commanding attention and respect. Alien leaders, for the first time, understood that humans had evolved beyond conventional measures of power. They had learned to orchestrate reality itself. The psychological impact on alien commanders was profound. Generals who had once scoffed at humans found their fleets immobilized, their calculations failing, their weapons rendered useless. Scientists who had once dismissed humanity's technological achievements now watched subspace anomalies unfold with awe and terror. Every strategy conceived to counter human advancement was predicted, analyzed, and nullified before it could even be deployed. Humans were not merely present in the galaxy, they were inevitable, operating on a scale that merged foresight, intelligence, and control over forces previously considered untouchable. And yet, humanity remained largely unseen. The fleets that did appear were few in number but precise in action, their ships moving with synchronization that suggested a single consciousness behind them. The builders acted independently, but in perfect harmony with human strategy, executing interventions across multiple star systems simultaneously. Alien civilizations, long confident in their supremacy, realized that they were confronting a species that had anticipated every move for centuries. The galaxy had mocked humans, underestimated them, and now, faced with evidence of their mastery, began to feel the first true tremors of fear. The first audible warning of humanity's intent came not in weapons fire, but in the stars themselves. Patterns of energy, gravitation, and subspace resonance aligned across sectors, producing harmonics that conveyed intelligence and intent with unparalleled clarity. Entire fleets paused, unable to comprehend or counter the message encoded in the vibrations of the cosmos. For the first time, civilizations realized that humanity's power lay not in aggression, but in understanding, in patience, and in the ability to manipulate the very fabric of the universe. The humans they had mocked were no longer a species. They were inevitability incarnate, speaking a language older than any empire, and the galaxy listened. The builders, human fleets, and the natural forces of the galaxy had become a single, coordinated network of influence. Every star, every planet, every subspace channel was woven into a tapestry of human control. Fleets could no longer plan offensive maneuvers without accounting for human foresight. Colonies could no longer resist without finding themselves subtly neutralized. Entire civilizations began to reconsider the wisdom of centuries of mockery and dismissal. Humanity's silence had become an instrument of power, patience a weapon, and observation a form of absolute dominance. By the end of the first century of this silent campaign, the galaxy understood one fundamental truth. The humans they had laughed at, underestimated, and ignored were no longer bound by conventional physics, technology, or strategy. They had synchronized with the cosmos itself, mastered its subtle forces, and transformed the void into a medium of authority. The first phase of humanity's rise was complete, and the galaxy, trembling with fear and awe, awaited the next stage, unsure of what form it would take, but certain that the humans were in control. By the time the galaxy began to take notice, humanity's presence was already deeply interwoven with the cosmic web itself. What had once been dismissed as random anomalies, accidental flukes, or natural phenomena were now understood as deliberate acts of subtle, incomprehensible power. Entire fleets, previously confident in their ability to intimidate or coerce, were forced to confront the terrifying realization that the humans they had scorned were no longer bound by the constraints of conventional warfare or logic. Humans did not merely respond to threats, they anticipated them, manipulated circumstances, and reshaped the battlefield on a scale previously thought impossible. The first major confrontation unfolded not with the roar of weapons, but with a quiet, almost imperceptible recalibration of reality. A coalition fleet, comprised of the galaxy's 5 most advanced civilizations, entered what they believed was a strategically vital region. They intended to assert dominance, eliminate emerging human influence, and secure resources for their empires. Yet, as the first ships moved into position, the space around them seemed to breathe and shift, subtly bending gravity, redirecting subspace channels, and altering energy flows. Navigation computers registered impossible trajectories, engines strained under forces that should not exist, and even the most advanced sensors could not account for the anomalies. Humans were not attacking. They were demonstrating that they could control the very environment of the battlefield itself. The builders, humanity's autonomous constructs, orchestrated the chaos with precision. They moved through subspace corridors and gravitational wells like silent conductors, ensuring that every fleet action was anticipated and countered without direct engagement. Ships attempting to fire weapons found their energy redirected or absorbed into the surrounding cosmic fabric. Shields fluctuated in resonance with gravitational waves, nullifying attacks before they could reach their targets. Entire formations of alien ships were subtly steered into positions of disadvantage, without a single human vessel visible to the naked eye. Commanders were forced to realize that the humans had become a force of inevitability, their mastery extending beyond technology into the fundamental laws of the universe. Diplomats and intelligence agencies across the galaxy scrambled to understand the pattern. Ancient archives, cosmic maps, and records of past encounters were combed for any clue that could explain humanity's sudden omnipresence. Scholars discovered that human fleets were synchronized not merely through conventional communication, but through an intricate network that exploited subspace harmonics, quantum entanglement, and the resonance of stars themselves. Every human colony, ship, and station acted as a node in a vast, self-regulating system that amplified human influence across light years. It was a network not just of observation, but of control, ensuring that no action taken by alien fleets could occur outside of human calculation. The psychological impact on alien leaders was profound. Generals, accustomed to decades of experience, found their strategies anticipated and nullified. Scientists, who prided themselves on mastery over physics, realized that humans had discovered and harnessed phenomena they had never even theorized. Entire governments began to question the wisdom of previous mockery, as fleets failed in coordination and empires struggled to maintain control over their own territories. Humanity's silence was no longer a passive trait. It was a weapon, a strategy, and a declaration of supremacy that required no visible action. Across contested sectors, reports poured in from colonies and systems where humans had never even been officially present. Gravitational anomalies subtly nudged hostile ships off course. Energy readings fluctuated to disrupt sensors. Entire fleets found themselves immobilized or misaligned with their intended targets. In every case, there was no human intervention in the conventional sense, only the invisible guidance of a species that had mastered the underlying forces of the cosmos. Observers began to speak of ghost fleets, invisible hands that manipulated outcomes, and a species that did not need to fight to win. The galaxy's greatest empires, once confident in their technological superiority, found themselves humbled by the quiet precision of human influence. The builders began to extend their presence beyond immediate human colonies. Remote systems, previously ignored or considered neutral, were subtly integrated into the human network. Stars emitted harmonics that communicated intelligence across unprecedented distances. Black holes, neutron stars, and pulsars were harnessed as nodes for energy transmission, subspace calculation, and strategic anticipation. Entire fleets, thousands of light-years away, could be influenced by subtle manipulations of cosmic phenomena, ensuring that human power extended far beyond the boundaries of known territory. Humanity's mastery of the galaxy was no longer confined to ships or weapons. It was a command over the very architecture of space itself. Alien commanders, desperate to regain control, attempted direct engagement. Fleets were dispatched to intercept perceived human assets, fleets that dwarfed anything humans could produce in raw numbers. Yet every attempt failed. Ships were diverted, weapons neutralized, and formations disrupted with uncanny precision. Those who survived to return reports described an almost supernatural coordination of human influence, as if the cosmos itself conspired to protect and empower humanity. The Empire's historians, previously dismissive, began chronicling a phenomenon they could not explain. Humans had become a force that transcended the normal limitations of space, time, and technology. As the confrontation escalated, humans revealed only a fraction of their capability. Select vessels appeared in precise locations, executing maneuvers that suggested a singular, deliberate intent, while the invisible network of builders and cosmic resonance ensured that every allied system functioned in perfect harmony. Fleets that had once considered themselves invincible were forced to retreat, humiliated not by brute force, but by a species that had mastered foresight, strategy, and cosmic manipulation. The galaxy, for the first time, truly understood the scale of humanity's power. It was not just physical, technological, or even intellectual, it was absolute. By the end of the engagement, the coalition's leaders convened in secret, their confidence shattered. They had faced a species they had once dismissed, underestimated, and mocked. Now they realized that the human silence, patience, and subtle control had not only neutralized their fleets, but reshaped the very concept of conflict itself. Humanity had become a force beyond calculation, an inevitability that no empire could resist. And as the galaxy reeled from the first undeniable demonstration of human mastery, the species they had ridiculed for centuries remained silent, watching, waiting, and preparing for the next phase of cosmic reckoning. With the coalition fleets scattered and their confidence shattered, the galaxy entered a new, uneasy era. Every civilization that had ever dismissed humanity as insignificant now understood that the humans were no longer merely a species. They were a cosmic phenomenon, operating in harmony with forces older and more fundamental than the empires themselves. Humanity had transcended conventional warfare, politics, and diplomacy, weaving a network of influence that spanned light years and intertwined with the very mechanics of the universe. It was no longer a question of if they could be defeated, it was a question of how, or even whether, it was possible to resist them at all. The builders, those autonomous and near-sentient constructs that humanity had developed over centuries, became increasingly visible in their subtle orchestration of galactic events. Entire fleets that sought to traverse human-claimed space found their trajectories silently adjusted by invisible gravitational currents. Weapon systems overloaded or malfunctioned, energy fields twisted, and even the most sophisticated AI guidance systems seemed to defy their operators' intent. Alien commanders, frustrated and terrified, watched as entire battle formations crumbled under forces they could not measure. These were not acts of aggression in the conventional sense. They were the execution of inevitability, a demonstration of absolute control that required no human crew to be visible or even present. Humanity had taught the galaxy a new lesson. Power was not measured in numbers, technology, or fleets, but in understanding and shaping the universe itself. As this silent dominion extended, human influence began to be felt in sectors far from any established human colony. Stars pulsed in patterns synchronized across vast distances. Subtle shifts in radiation streams provided intelligence to distant human fleets, and subspace currents were subtly modulated to influence the movement of entire alien armadas. Every anomaly that had once been attributed to random cosmic fluctuations was now understood to be the deliberate work of humans, orchestrated with precision and foresight that no alien civilization could hope to match. The galaxy's most brilliant minds struggled to comprehend how a species once mocked as primitive had learned to manipulate the cosmos with such sophistication. The psychological impact was profound. Generals who had long relied on strategy, tactics, and brute technological power found themselves rendered impotent by forces beyond their understanding. Diplomats who had once scoffed at human negotiation and reasoning discovered that communication itself had become irrelevant. Humans could convey intent, command attention, and manipulate outcomes without ever sending a word, a signal, or a visible fleet. Entire councils convened to discuss humanity not as a species, but as a singular, almost mythic force. For the first time, fear replaced mockery, respect replaced derision, and caution replaced arrogance. Humanity had achieved supremacy not through conquest, but through mastery of the fundamental laws of existence. Amid this growing unease, humans began selective demonstrations of power to reinforce the lesson. In one notable instance, a hostile fleet approached a remote system known for its valuable resources. The fleet, composed of thousands of ships from multiple empires, expected a straightforward engagement with minimal resistance. Yet, as they entered the system, every star, moon, and asteroid subtly aligned to their disadvantage. Gravitational anomalies disrupted navigation, energy flows nullified shields and weapons, and even the spatial coordinates of key targets shifted unpredictably, though with impossible precision. From nowhere, a single human vessel emerged, perfectly positioned not to destroy, but to warn. The aliens, unaccustomed to such restraint, realized that the humans were not merely powerful, they were patient, deliberate, and absolute in their control. The fleet withdrew, shaken, humbled, and profoundly aware of the humans' unmatched foresight. Reports of these encounters spread quickly across galactic communication networks. Entire civilizations began to reassess the humans they had long underestimated. Star councils that had once debated the relevance of Earth and its inhabitants now convened in fear, analyzing past dismissals and failed campaigns. The historical records, once filled with jokes and ridicule about human ineptitude, were rewritten in real time to account for a species that had demonstrated the capacity to manipulate the cosmos itself. What had been considered luck, coincidence, or anomalous energy fluctuations was now understood as deliberate, precise, and coordinated action on a scale that defied comprehension. Humanity's control was not only technological or tactical, but profoundly psychological. Alien leaders began to second-guess their own decisions, hesitant to act against humans for fear of unseen consequences. Fleets remained in harbor, empires delayed expansion, and diplomatic missions were canceled or rerouted. Even civilizations that had never encountered humans directly felt the ripple effects of their influence, as gravitational and energy manipulations subtly altered cosmic phenomena across vast distances. The galaxy, once a sprawling arena of competition and conflict, had come under the quiet, undeniable sway of human design. Yet humans themselves remained remarkably restrained. They did not annihilate entire fleets indiscriminately, nor did they seize planets for glory. Every action was calculated, every intervention measured, and every demonstration of power was designed to communicate a singular truth. Humanity's reach was absolute, its mastery undeniable, and its patience inexhaustible. The builders, operating in concert with human intention, ensured that no move was wasted, no effort duplicated, and no opportunity for misunderstanding allowed. The galaxy learned that to provoke humans was not merely unwise, it was to invite subtle, inevitable, and incomprehensible consequences. As the first century of this silent domination progressed, the narrative of human history in galactic consciousness shifted dramatically. Once mocked as clumsy and primitive, humans were now revered in whispers and feared in open councils. Entire species began to reconsider their approach to exploration, diplomacy, and warfare, realizing that they were no longer dealing with a conventional opponent. Humanity had elevated itself from a single planetary species to a force that manipulated the architecture of reality itself, and every corner of the galaxy was beginning to feel the weight of this new order. By the end of this phase, the galaxy understood a simple, chilling truth. Humans had transcended the limitations of mere species rivalry. They had learned the language of the stars, the pulse of the cosmos, and the rhythm of existence itself. Their silence had become a symphony of inevitability, their patience a weapon, and their mastery of reality a fact the galaxy could neither deny nor contest. The civilizations that had once mocked humanity could do nothing but watch and wonder. How does one confront a force that exists not only in space and time, but beyond them, woven into the very fabric of the universe? The final act of humanity's silent dominion unfolded not in the roar of battle, nor in fleets of fire and destruction, but in a series of events that reshaped the galaxy itself. Entire civilizations, long confident in their supremacy and technological prowess, now understood that the humans they had underestimated were no longer bound by conventional laws of physics, strategy, or logic. Humanity had transformed patience into power, silence into communication, and observation into absolute control over the unfolding tapestry of the cosmos. The builders, humanity's autonomous and sentient constructs, orchestrated this silent ascendance with precision, ensuring that every fleet, every planet, and every star acted as part of a vast interlocking network of influence. The first undeniable demonstration of human inevitability came when a coalition of the galaxy's mightiest empires attempted a coordinated assault on multiple human colonies simultaneously. The plan was meticulous: 5 fleets, thousands of ships, armed with the most devastating weapons, would strike in unison, overwhelming humanity through sheer force. Yet, as the first fleets entered the targeted sectors, they found themselves ensnared by forces they could not comprehend. Gravitational anomalies twisted trajectories, subspace distortions rerouted communications, and energy systems that had been engineered for centuries to resist any conceivable attack faltered inexplicably. Ships collided with invisible currents, weapons overloaded or fizzled into nothingness, and the command structure of entire fleets dissolved into confusion and panic. Not a single human vessel was present in the immediate conflict, yet humanity's influence had already dictated the outcome. Alien leaders, witnessing the unraveling of their most ambitious campaign, convened in panic. They sent envoys, dispatched intelligence teams, and attempted to negotiate with humans directly. But each approach was subtly, invisibly thwarted. Messages arrived altered, navigational coordinates subtly misaligned, and communications loops rerouted themselves in ways that confounded even the most advanced alien AIs. Every attempt to engage or understand humanity ended in frustration, humiliation, and the deepening realization that the humans were no longer operating on the same plane of existence. They had transcended the boundaries of conventional interaction and had woven themselves into the very fabric of space, time, and energy. The builders, acting in perfect coordination with human strategy, orchestrated the most staggering display of power yet. Entire star systems were subtly shifted to block potential enemy reinforcements. Energy flows were harnessed to neutralize fleets without direct engagement. And subspace channels were manipulated to ensure that no communication could pass without human knowledge. The galaxy watched in awe as human colonies, previously thought vulnerable, became impenetrable nodes of control. Fleets that had once considered themselves unstoppable were immobilized, paralyzed by forces invisible and incomprehensible. And still, humans remained largely unseen. Their presence felt but not confirmed, their power absolute yet subtle. Across multiple sectors, alien civilizations began to speak of the Ghost Fleet, an invisible hand that anticipated every action, countered every plan, and neutralized every threat without direct confrontation. Even their most brilliant minds, trained in physics, engineering, and interstellar strategy, could not predict human moves. Every step taken against humanity resulted in recalibration, disruption, or outright failure. The galaxy's most advanced fleets began to disband in confusion, empires postponed expansion, and the proud councils that had once scoffed at humanity now quaked at the mere thought of confrontation. Humanity had not only survived the contempt of the galaxy, they had become an inevitable force, a presence that could not be resisted, and a species whose mastery extended beyond the tangible into the very laws of reality. It was in this climate of awe and terror that humanity revealed the final lesson. The true measure of their power was not destruction, but orchestration. Entire fleets were allowed to withdraw unharmed, entire colonies left untouched, and entire sectors subtly realigned to favor peace over chaos. Humans had become conductors of the cosmos itself, guiding outcomes, shaping realities, and ensuring that no conflict escalated beyond their design. The builders operated silently, performing tasks that no human hand could achieve alone, while humans themselves remained patient observers, quietly asserting dominance through understanding, foresight, and an intimate knowledge of the universe's underlying structures. The galaxy, long confident in its mastery of technology, fleets, and strategy, finally understood a chilling truth. The humans they had mocked, underestimated, and ignored were no longer mere participants in cosmic events. They were the axis around which those events now turned. Stars pulsed with harmonics that carried human intent. Gravitational currents shifted in anticipation of human strategy. Subspace channels themselves seemed to bend to the rhythm of human foresight. Every civilization, from the smallest independent colonies to the largest interstellar empires, had been forced to reckon with a species that had turned the universe itself into a tool of strategy, communication, and control. In the final demonstration of humanity's mastery, the galaxy's empires convened in secrecy, debating their future, reassessing their understanding of power, and reconsidering every previous assumption about the humans they had dismissed. They spoke in hushed tones of inevitability, of patience perfected into strategy, and of intelligence that transcended mere physical form. The humans, for their part, remained silent, observing the galaxy's reactions, their presence felt yet never overtly confirmed. Every fleet, every empire, and every star system had been subtly reshaped, not through aggression, but through the quiet application of foresight, understanding, and cosmic harmony. By the time the galaxy could fully comprehend what had transpired, the lesson was absolute and irrevocable. Humanity's silence was not ignorance or weakness, it was power. Humanity's patience was not hesitation, it was mastery. And humanity's understanding of the universe was not mere intellect, it was the command of forces older than stars themselves. The civilizations that had once mocked them now faced an undeniable fact. Humans were not simply participants in the cosmos, they were its orchestrators. They had awakened, risen beyond conventional comprehension, and reminded the galaxy that underestimating humanity had always been the gravest mistake of all. And so the galaxy trembled, not at the threat of human violence, but at the certainty of human mastery. Entire civilizations, once arrogant and unyielding, now approached the cosmos with caution, respect, and awe. The builders moved silently among the stars, executing humanity's will. Human fleets glided with precision unseen and unmatched, and the galaxy itself seemed to bend subtly to ensure the inevitability of their intent. Humanity had spoken the language of stars, orchestrated reality itself, and taught the universe a simple, undeniable truth. To underestimate humans was to court inevitable ruin. In the end, the silence of humanity was louder than any war cry, and the galaxy, trembling and awestruck, knew that the true rulers of destiny had always been Earth's children.